You got your Tanaka hand, right?
Yes. I use the computer. Hallelujah. Shalom, shalom, family. Early Shabbat shalom to everyone. My name is Uziel Lewy. I'm one of the teachers of Congregation BINAH, CHOKMAH, BINAH, located at 382 Hamilton Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn. Thanking the Creator of heaven and earth for all things and everything, food, clothing, and shelter, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. As we come to another week of a Torah review of last week's portion, which was Bo, which is found in the book of Exodus. We thank the Most High God once again for the life of the one who is going to be reviewing and highlighting certain points in the portion Bo. Even one of my teachers, Nasik, Zurishaddai ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
Great, Baruch Hashem.
Hallelujah.
Thanks, D.C.B for the platform. First of all, I give praises to the Supreme Eternal Universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Yitzchak, God of Yaakov, and due respect to the leadership of D.C.B congregation, Chief Prince Ariel, also the host, Chief Uzael, and to the Prince's chief brothers and sisters, and Kohanim, and the different rabbis, rabbinists that's out there, and visitors, new timers. Greet you all in the tongue of our forefathers. Shalom Aleichem, and an early Shabbat Shalom. First of all, I like to say Adonai Takopi Yagiti Lateka. The Lord opened out my lips, and my mouth should declare that praise. I will try to highlight certain points in last week's Sidra. Many of y'all from various congregations got a lot of information from the various teachers and leaders from the different congregations on the very same Sidra I'm about to speak on already, but it's always good to review. Like I mentioned before in one of my talks earlier, that to be able to forget is a good thing in some instances, and you say, well, why would, some people will say, why would it be a good thing to forget? Because if we didn't forget certain things, to restudy and go over something will be very boring in our life. And we won't learn new depths if we didn't forget some things. So it's very few things we know verbatim straight through. So, and those things we might quote verbatim, we might see a different perspective because we are constantly developing. And that's one of the great things about studying in the book of the Tanakh, the scriptures, because the scriptures, we don't ever outgrow it. We never outgrow the scriptures. We never outgrow the words of the Creator. What we actually do is grow within the word and within the words of the Creator. And that's one of the blessings about going over scriptures time and time again. So we have a saying in BINAH when I was coming up, that you never graduate from Torah, from the instructions of God. What you do, you get a lot of dropouts, but you never get a graduate class. And that's a good thing, because always something to look forward to. So last time I was speaking on the Sidra YAH, but I like to go back. I made mention about certain plagues, and just in case some people might not quote everything I said, and I maybe not expressed it as well. I'm just going to go back over just 3 little points in YAH because I mentioned before that the first plague, before the first plague, before the fourth plague, and before the seventh plague, that it was a message that the Creator had specifically for Pharaoh and the people. So, Chief, if you don't mind, I just want to go back to the seventh chapter of Exodus, the 17th verse.
We're in the book of Exodus, chapter 7, verse 17.
Yeah, that's the one verse.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
7:17 or 7:7?
Yeah, 7:17.
7:17.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. Thus saith Yahweh, and this thou shalt know that I am Yahweh. Behold, I will smite with the rod that is in my hand upon the waters which are in the river, and they shall be turned to blood.
Okay, hold right there. Okay. That's the first thing. Before the plague is even begun, the first plague is even begun, that message was sent as well. So not only was a warning given, but also the message given in this particular verse. All right. Now we're gonna move into the fourth plague, which is in the 8th chapter, and we're gonna start at the 18th verse.
Chapter 8, verse 18. It reads, and I will set apart in that day the land of Goshen, in which my people dwell.
We can start. We go up from we go up a little higher. We take it from the 17th verse.
From
And come on down.
6:17 or 17?
No, 8:17 now.
8:17.
Yes.
Else, if thou wilt not let my people go, behold, I will send swarms of flies upon thee, and upon thy servants, and upon thy people into thy houses. And the houses of the Egyptians shall be full of swarms of flies, and also the ground whereon they are.
Keep going. A little bit going.
It says, and I will set apart in that day the land of Goshen, in which my people dwell, that no swarms of flies shall be there, to the end that thou mayest know that I am Yahweh in the midst of the earth.
All right. Different from the first one. Now this has been the fourth plague, and the first three plagues affected Israelites and Egyptians alike. The plague of the blood throughout the whole land. Goshen's part of that land. The plague of the frogs throughout the whole land. Goshen's part of that land. The plague of the lights throughout the whole land, and Goshen is a part of that land. But this particular plague here, just in case people think that Creator this is by accident or by nature or something like that, the Creator let them know. So like I said, the first plague is before he started that first series, he's teaching a lesson, and now in this fourth plague, he want to teach a lesson. Now the seventh, we're gonna go to the seventh plague, so we're just gonna go to the 9th chapter and 13th verse, and we're gonna read all the way through the 16th.
Exodus chapter 9, verse 13. It reads, and Yahweh said unto Moses, rise up early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh, and say unto him, thus saith Yahweh, the God of the Hebrews, let my people go that they may serve me. For I will this time send all my plagues upon thy person, and upon thy servants, and upon thy people, that thou mayest know that there is none like me in all the earth.
All right, right there. All right, that's good enough. So now we understand now a little bit more, because we know the Creator could took one plague and got us out, and he could get, and these plagues are beatings, like I said before, markers, but yet certain series of plagues was to teach you unique lessons, and that's what I want to focus on, and those lessons were already stated. Not only the Creator is just some random God, but he let you know that his power he's not just one of them gods you just look up in the heavens. He's not a mythology God. He's not just a God of the sky. He's not just a God of water, but he's a God throughout the whole earth. And then saying you can't even compare anybody to me. So so all this is supposed to be for Pharaoh's education. You notice it said this is for Pharaoh's education and not necessarily for the people of Egypt as a whole. You know,
Right.
this is the direct message for him. All right. And when the creator was one of the best teachers. So now we're just going to go a little bit in the 10th chapter because I'm going to explain about the Sidra bowl. One
Chapter
of the,
10.
yes, but before you read though, all right, there's two ways to say go in Hebrew. One is lek, which means go, straight up go. And then another idiomatic way, which is a little subtlety, which says bo. That means I want you to come along. So that means you got to move. So bo means to come. But if you're coming, that means that you're not just, when you say lek, that means you're going alone. When you say bo, you're not going alone. You're going
Right.
with a company. You're going in the presence of somebody. So that means I'm with you. So this now the creator said, I'm gonna travel with you this particular time, which is unique. Hence the Sidra Bo, because we know when you Bo is the imperative word when you want somebody to actually come to you. But also it could be used in the sense that you come and you imperative word when you tell them to come, that you also are there with them as well, making moves with them. And that's the difference. Now, also now let's deal with and look at it almost as another subtlety of both, and think of it sort of like a preposition, so to speak. You know, you want Moshe this time not only to come with them to Pharaoh, but see if you could really reach Pharaoh's depth. Talk to him, go into him, come into Pharaoh as deep and as strong as possible in your, with these next messages that's coming through. So we're just going to just go just a little bit all the way up to the six in this thing. I'm not going to dwell here long. I just want to give you an opening because I hate to go through a central portion without talking about from the beginning. All right, so if you don't mind, you could pick it up from the 10th.
Exodus chapter 10, verse 1. And Yehodah said unto Moses, Go in unto Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart, and the heart of his servants, that I might show these my signs in the midst of them.
Uh-huh.
And that thou mayest tell in the ears of thy son and of thy son's sons, what I have wrought upon Egypt, and my signs which I have done among them, that ye may know that I am Yehodah. And Moses and Aaron went in unto Pharaoh and said unto him, Thus saith Yehodah, the God of the Hebrews, How long wilt thou refuse to humble thyself before me? Let my people go, that they may serve me. Else, if thou refuse to let my people go, behold, tomorrow will I bring locusts into thy border.
Uh-huh. Continue.
And they shall cover the face of the earth, that all shall not be able to see the earth. And they shall eat the residue of that which is escaped, which remaineth unto you from the hail, and shall eat every tree which groweth for you out of the field. And thy houses shall be filled, and the houses of all thy servants, and the houses of all the Egyptians, as neither thy fathers nor thy fathers' fathers have seen, since the day that they were upon the earth unto this day. And he turned and went out from Pharaoh.
Okay. Now, this is the eighth plague. All right. What's unique, I skipped over it, but I think I just need to speak on it. That was the chapter before, the plague of hail and fire. Um, so forgive me for just jumping ahead. Um, but in the ninth chapter, it was talking about the plague of hail and fire mixed. And what's so and we could spend a lot of time on each one of those plagues elaborating. But I figure I want to stop at this particular focus on that one from the last series, um, which was actually the seventh plague of hail and fire. So one of the things uh, that when we look at is that the hail. and fire, you got two elements. And both of the elements, one made up of ice, which is water, and the other one of fire itself, they are both purifying agents. Whereas in the matter of Genesis, dealing with Sodom and Gomorrah, that it was fire and brimstone, which is more of a destructive agent then. So fire has a purifying quality and a destructive quality, and water has a purifying quality and a destructive quality. But when you just have fire made with brimstone, you know, which is gafrit, which is the term they use, YH, when in Book of Genesis, that is like a that is actually a destructive power. So that lets you know that Sodom and Gomorrah was so wicked that it was not even a thought of purifying them for having somebody still around with the Sodom and Gomorrah group of people. Those five cities: Sodom, Gomorrah, Abnon, Zeboam, and Zor later on. All right, so and one of the unique things I like to bring out is that we read in one of the Psalms, as he made peace in his high places, may make peace for us here on earth. So now, if you take two opposing elements, such as the hail and the fire, working together for the glory of the Creator and the sanctification of his holy name, then why should it ever be difficult for Israelites to work together, since we say we're trying to work for the sanctification of God's name? So we should at least learn from that seventh plague that you have two opposing elements. So we might have difference in opposing views, but we could work along together for the glory and sanctification of the Creator's name. And hence, that plague had a message for it. So now, we talk about the plague of locusts in this particular Sidra, and then we had the plague of darkness. And the plague of darkness came unannounced. Like I said before earlier, that he announced the first and second plague, third plague just hit him, and then it goes fourth and fifth plague announced, sixth plague is hit him, seventh, eighth plague is announced, ninth plague is hitting him. Now it's the 10th. Um, one of the interesting things from as we look at some of the plagues, because I'm a pass by, is that when one of the plagues, before Pharaoh's servant said, "Don't you see that Egypt is destroyed?" And Moses had walked away. Sometimes even bringing a message to a leader. Sometimes even the council guys say, "Look at, you might not see what we see. So now we need to take a huddle." And then Moses was called back. So when we read these different chapters here in Exodus, leading up to this particular point, it's a lot of lessons to be learned in here. But I'm only going to focus tonight on the 12th chapter of this particular portion of both. So we're going to go straight to the 12th chapter.
Chapter 12. You ready?
Yes.
Exodus chapter 12, verse 1. And Yehudah spoke unto Moses and unto Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months, it shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb according to their father's houses, a lamb for a household.
Okay. Now, before you even go further. Now, in the 11th chapter, for those who read, I'm just trying to save time. 11th chapter talks about the death of the firstborn. Now, I spoke earlier last week. What is a firstborn that must be redeemed, and what's considered a firstborn in the eyesight of the Creator? And this particular portion here, this is whether it's a male or female, they're going to be that it was indiscriminate with the sexes. Afterwards, it was only designated for the males in redemption as a firstborn in the eyesight of the Creator. I just want to make it clear, as we pass through this here, because that means, but if somebody, it's if some a woman just happened to have a girl, and that's the only child that's the first one to open the matrix in there. There'll be some death there. It's only when later on that so the laws has changed subtle. As we go through this here particular chapter of Exodus, the 12th chapter about the first Pesach, because we're gonna have certain requirements in this actual first Pesach observance as opposed to the memorial of the Passover, and hence also the redemptions of the firstborn and how it's designated what firstborn the Creator requires redemption for and what determines a firstborn. So I figure I'd just make that a little bit more clearer as we go through this particular chapter. And no matter how often you read this here, um, when it comes down to Pesach, you must talk about this here story that particular night. But one of the interesting things is that this was the first threat that the Creator gave to the Pharaoh, and that Israel, my son, even my firstborn, if you don't let my son go, I will destroy and kill your firstborn. But the Creator delayed that and hit him with 9 other plagues. Even the plague of darkness being a real hard plague because there's 2 viewpoints on the plague of darkness. I just figure I'll speak on that as we get into this particular portion. The ninth plague, the plague of darkness, it said 3 days. So some people would just say, "All right, it was just 3 days, literally." Other viewpoints is that it's an actual 6 day of darkness, because when night come, that doesn't make a difference. The thick darkness is like daylight. Um, and the reference and relationship that they use for that is that in Genesis 1 is that when the Creator said, "Let there be light," and he called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And then he said, let it divide it from the day and the night. You know, and the evening and the morning would be one day. So the thing is that day not only means the totality. Day not only means when the light is out. Day also is a expand of time. So it means the totality, what consists of a day, evening and morning, darkness and light, and what is called day, light, and also it marks time. How many days? All right. So that's all three, just from that one concept of day. So since it's all three, they would say normally that actual plague will last at 6 days, being when nights the normal night supposed to pass, it's they got thick dark night, and when it normally would be daylight. So that's one of the viewpoints, and that I use that to explain the concept of days. And some people don't, like I said, I'm just sharing different information and different perspective. Um, and you could go back to the berry sheet, Genesis itself, and look at it again. And day means 3 different aspects of it. It has 3 different meanings. All right. So now, as we're talking about this plague, but first thing is talk about the first observance of a day. You know, the first day of observance we're given is a Rosh Chodesh. That's the first day of observance. You will say, well, shouldn't we be getting the Shabbat? Shouldn't they be talking about the Shabbat? But they talk about this should be the beginning of months. So that's a Rosh Chodesh there. And we look at it as a minor festival, but it has a particular Shabbat. And it also say that we're going to break away with the Egyptian time frame. We're going to break away with the time frame of the rest of the world. Our time frame now going to be have something to do with our sacred relationship with the Creator. So now, at this particular time, though the world may have their time set, and we the last nation to rise up, that our Liberation Day, our Independence Day, that month, the beginning of that month, the Rosh Chodesh of that month, will be the beginning of the month for us. And so we got that, and then within that month, as Chief will continue to read, we'll get some more insight about this Passover service. All right,
Verse
continue.
4, and if the household be too little for a lamb, then shall he and his neighbor next unto his house take one according to the number of the souls. According to every man's eating, ye shall make your count for the lamb.
Uh-huh.
Your lamb shall be without blemish. A male of the first year, ye shall take it from the sheep or from the goats. Ye shall keep it.
Okay, hold it. From the sheep or the goat before we get to the 6. All right. Now, ain't too most of us city dwellers. You know, goats have lambs and sheep have lambs. Rams have lambs. Lambs. So when they say from the sheep or the goat, it's just that offspring of a goat. It's actually still called a lamb, and plus the sheep, that offspring is called a lamb. Around most circles. So it's just that goat meat is a lot more tougher. Lamb meat's a lot more tender. But the thing is that so when we say get lamb, and then later on we read in Book of Deuteronomy, Moshe even say that we could get it up the up the herd. That means that's bullock and stuff like that, beef for that seder. And then that's in the Book of Deuteronomy. For those that might want to look that up later. But the reason it would say of the first year is because it's small, and so the criteria is necessary. It will be less waste, and it's easier and quicker to cook because we're under a time constraint. And not only that, that it said according to every man's eating. So that means that what is a household is the man that determines the household instead of your father's houses. So that's what it referred to in the Hebrew. So it's the man will determine what household, and how many people be in a household. And the Creator also teaching that He's not for wasting. So now we could go on just a little bit more. The 6th verse, I think.
Verse 6, it reads, and ye shall keep it unto the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it at dusk.
All right, stop right there. All right. So this lamb is separated on the 10th day. The 10th day was a unique day in our history, but we don't tend to know the greater significance because we have where on the 10th day that we at this particular time we had that lamb prepared then, separated and keep it for several days. We know also that when Joshua crossed the Jordan, he crossed it and they had to be circumcised on the 10th of the month. We also know that Yom Kippur comes on the 10th of the 7th month. We also know the sabbatical year and the Yovel is declared also on the 10th of the month. So we know we tend to relate the sevens, a lot, and we might even relate to tens. for 10 men being sent with the servant, and would go get a wife of Isaac, 10 camels and stuff like that, or the so-called, we would say the 10 Commandments, and also the 10 spies and the 10 brothers that did all this. Um, so it was something about the 10 that was unique that we tend to lose over a period of time far significant. Now, of course, with everything that becomes insignificant, people has a story for it. But I'm not going to go into a story for it now. I'll just show you certain correlations about the 10th on that. All right, so continue. 7.
Verse 7. They shall take of the blood and put it on the two side posts and on the lintel, upon the houses wherein they shall eat it. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire, and unleavened bread with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Eat not of it raw, nor sign at all with water, but roast with fire, its head with its legs and with its inwards thereof.
Okay.
And ye shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, but that which remaineth of it until the morning ye shall burn with fire.
All right, stop right there. We're going to stop here. We're going to 11 first. One of the things I like to say is that why they choose roasting? Why not say bake? Why not say boil? Because roasting is the fastest way to prepare meat. That's the quickest way. And when you're boiling something, it takes a lot more longer than just to go ahead and throw it in the fire. You know, so now also roasting, you can smell it a lot further too than boiled meat. When somebody barbecuing, you can smell it throughout the neighborhood a long ways. So the thing is that this is also the very thing that the Creator is telling Moses to tell the children of Israel to do is the very thing that Moshe said to Pharaoh when Pharaoh said, "Well, why don't you sacrifice to the Creator right here?" And he said, "We can't sacrifice the abominations of the Egyptians in their sight. You'll kill us." So now that fear is alleviated because earlier when Pharaoh said, "You could do that here," and yet that Passover offering is a sacrifice. And the very door of each house becomes that very altar where the blood is put. So, and the minimum of a meal for that particular night is lamb, bitter herbs, and and unleavened bread. Now, it's always a question about what is bitter herbs, because most traditions, most of us have horseradish, and horseradish is not really that bitter, but and then other traditions, any green leafy vegetable. And now some of us know that you could, um, well, let me try to take something that more people might know from the States. Collard green. Collard green, when it's raw, and you just go ahead on and just cut it and chew on that leaf, it tastes kind of bitter. And so so traditionally people would say, do at that night any green leafy vegetable. The tradition I grew up with, we just had, horseradish a lot. But any green leafy vegetable, because say bitter herbs, and leaves it up to the individual to say what herbs are bitter and why bitter. We always have a reason for that, which should be discussed, and elaborate on Passover night amongst different congregations. But the thing is that those three items at the minimum, unleavened bread, uh, the first time we read about matzah is with lot, and it's because it's quick to fix. So everything that is talking about, and they talk about now, you can have more that night. You can have, you know, all kind of stuff set on the side and stuff like that, or and all kind of hors d'oeuvres and stuff, and that's kosher for that particular week. But unleavened bread should be there for the whole week. All right, if that's a memorial, and we eat that. All right, all right. Continue from 11.
Verse 11, it reads, And thus shall ye eat And thus shall ye eat it, with your loins girded, with your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and ye shall eat it in haste. It is Yahuwah's Passover.
All right. So, and then you know that this thing actually is something for the Creator directly. And talk about your loins girded, staff in your hands, shoes on your feet. I come from a camp as we was learning and trying to develop every prayer, so we tend to dress like that. Have some kind of satchel or something tied around our waist. Brothers with their staff in their hands, their shoes on their feet, and even in some of the strictest services around, where people that observe a Passover Seder, a memorial of the Seder, they, even though they recline, you ain't got to eat and fast, everything like that. For some traditions, they say if we're gonna make another Exodus, it's gonna be around that same time. You know, so that's why they have these different traditions in various communities. And normally, when you learn a lot from this particular Sidra bowl, which I'm not gonna get into the 13th chapter, but I'm gonna try to continue in the 12th, and I might hint on some things in the 13th as we go along. But it tell you right then and there that in haste. So that's not a comfortable meal. That's not a relaxing meal. What we used to say is cut and swallow. And when you cut and swallow, eating fast, and your shoes on and everything like that, it's a really, really not a relaxing meal. You just get enough to get to go. So it's not a meal so much to satisfy your appetite. It's a meal as a ritual to show that you actually now believe in the strength of the Creator. And the Creator said, after this next plague, this is the only time He said you're gonna be let loose. All right. So we're gonna pick it up from there.
Verse 12. For I will go through the land of Egypt in that night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgments. I am Yehovah.
All right, now.
And the blood shall
I just want yeah, I might as well finish that out.
says, and the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where ye are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and there shall no plague be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt.
Okay. Now we're gonna let you know right then and there that the Creator Himself said, when you see the blood, you know He'll pass over you and won't smite you. So a lot of times we have a tradition, and I'm just gonna fast forward just a little bit on this here portion, but we have a tradition in some places, not myself per se, but in some places where they tend to stay up all night, and because it's a night of watching and stuff like that, so we get certain excerpts from this particular Sidra, and some people will leave out, before midnight as a memorial. They won't leave out, before midnight because they say the death angels out there, And one of the things is that the only thing would stop the destroyer from getting us was if we had the real lamb, and the real credentials to do what the Creator told us to do. Now we don't have a temple set up now, but it was a prophet that we know was a prophet of the Creator, and he told us to do certain things. Naturally we check out the prophet because we can check his irony. The irony is that we can check a prophet out and his credentials, but we can't check a judge out. But if it was such thing where it was revealed to us that this is what we're supposed to do now, it's only the Creator that allow us to be able to do those things. Now the memorial of the Passover, since we don't have that lamb today, in these days and times, and when we say we don't have that lamb, in other words, we don't have the clearance because that's part of a sacrifice, and we have priests set up. We have no prophet to say to do something different that was okay with the Creator, that we know approached us as of yet. So therefore, one of the elements is as we look at it is that you got have lamb if you want it. If you don't want it, you don't have it. Some communities don't even eat lamb that night. They eat everything else, and instead of lamb, then they might have a shank bone on the plate. In some places, they have a book they call a Haggadah, which means a narration or something to talk about concerning that particular night, which is a very interesting book of literature to be learn a lot of things from, in there, and give you different insights. For those that might not look at a Haggadah, stuff, maybe if you had a rabbinic setting in your particular place, those brothers and sisters that follow that particular custom, then they should really concentrate and look more and even discuss the Haggadah itself, why it's written that way, why those different elements are put within the Haggadah, why this particular way of doing things, why the 4 cups of wine, the 4 different things, 4 different types of rescues just mentioned. All right, so we're going to pick it up just a little bit more.
It reads, and this shall be unto you for a memorial, and ye shall keep it a feast to Yehovah. Throughout your generations ye shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever.
Okay,
7
I
days.
just want to stop right there. One of the days is that some people think should we. There's always a question among some groups whether we should observe the Passover or not, since we're in captivity. All right, that day we got to observe. Our participation within that day and be weighed in the balance before wanting. So in other words, we can participate like the Creator wants us to participate on that day, but the observance of the day is a requirement if you're going to observe, and recognizing that your liberation in your day, that the Creator liberated you from that particular saga, and the ancestors at that particular time, that you can do. But those that don't want to observe Passover, don't want to bring it to mind on that day, and look at it as another day simply because we're in captivity, we're not in the land, then I didn't see no clearance on that at all. Only thing I see that we could not offer up the sacrifice because of certain situations. And Passover is so unique that when we look later on in the wilderness, the only Passover that they observe in the wilderness after they left out of Egypt is that's the only day and the only observance that the Creator said, okay, if you're clean by the dead on a long journey, you could do this next month at the exact same time, the exact same way. It's just that it's only for that particular night. So that's how important it is. It's always developing an attitude of gratitude with the Creator. So we continue in this here chapter.
Verse 15, and it reads, 7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread, howbeit the first day ye shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Yisrael.
All right, now, one thing, I just want to point out one thing in that verse. It said, howbeit the first day you should put away leaven out of your houses. What first day? Because if Pesach is here, and we know the law, those that know the law, it should have been already gone, the leaven out your borders. The leaven should be seen within your borders. So what is it saying? And the first day you should put the leaven out of the house, and the first day is the 15th of the month. That leaven should be put out of the houses. But yet, you shouldn't have it there. Just something to focus on and discuss amongst the various congregations. I just, want to bring that out because that always be a thing. Say, well, on the first day? All right, what do you mean by the first day? Shouldn't it be out prior to that? Should we already have our thing covered? Why would they say the first day? Just focus on. Go on to the next verse.
Verse 16. And in the first day they shall be to you a holy convocation, and in the 7th day a holy convocation. No man or work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, that only may be done by you. And ye shall observe.
All right. We're gonna skip on. We're gonna skip on down there. All right. That we know already. Going to talk in this particular portion about the amount of days, which is 7 days for the CHOKMAH on that particular time. 7 days of CHOKMAH. That's all we're going to deal with. And you have a holy convocation on the first day. You have a holy convocation on the 7th day. And that's how we do today. But right then you say, well, this is the holy convocation. That'd be the memorial. But but you know what's so unique that they are observing Passover there at that particular time in Egypt. But we know that the Creator had Moshe ordered them that. But you don't read where it says it was a holy convocation in their houses at that time. You read about the memorial of that. It should be a holy convocation, the first day and the 7th day. All right. But anyway, let's go just a little bit more. We'll skip down. We'll skip down to matter of fact, we'll skip down to the 21st. 21st.
Verse 21st.
Yeah.
Then Moses called for all the elders of Israel and said unto them, draw out and take your lambs according to your families and kill the Passover lamb.
Uh-huh.
And you shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, strike the lintel and the 2 side posts with the blood that is in the basin, and none of you shall go out of the door of his house until the morning.
Okay. Now, that's the first one. We had to stay there. And said, and it should go out to the house of your door until the morning. That's what Moses, and he charged the elders with that. Continue, Chief.
For Yehovah will pass through to smite the Egyptians, and when he seeth the blood upon the lintel and on the 2 side posts, Yehovah will pass over the door and will not suffer the destroyer to come in unto your houses to smite you.
All right, there's a lot of people used to talk about the death angel. You got to watch out for the death angel. Watch out for the death angel. All right, because the death angel going out there and slaying the Egyptians. It's the Creator that actually took this personal. It's the Creator that actually went out and destroyed the Egyptians. No nation in any mythology could say that God ever came and destroyed a people for them. They do the destruction and attribute the victory to some deity. We're the only people that exist on the planet that actually had a deity actually come out and destroy people for us. But you know what's unique? That he said, and when he sees the blood on the door, he will not suffer the destroyer to come in and get us. So that blood, the Creator, took it personal against the Egyptians, but he stood a little distance if we violate and let somebody else handle us. That should be a lesson within itself. That destroyer, the angelic being, whatever it was, we just say my way, the death angel, but they use a different word here. But that destroyer itself, the slaughterer, that guy there would have killed Israelites if we didn't have that blood upon the door. That means that every Israelite house in Goshen complied with that law. But what is more greater, and what we should be really excited about, is that only the Creator can forgive your sin and overlook your transgressions. The destroyer, he don't work in that department. He don't understand that department. So when he said, I see the blood, I will not suffer him. That means I'm holding back from you. I won't allow him to touch you. Not because you're so righteous, but because I said so. Now that's what we should be, really enthused about that. That it don't be our righteousness that save us all the time. It's because the Creator says so that I'm gonna spare you for a moment. And that's one of the things we read in the Decalogue from time to time in Exodus, that God is visiting iniquities upon the children to the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and show mercy on them that love me, keep my commandments. Now, third and fourth generation, the Creator will go down for people that still despise Him, and you teaching your kids to despise Him, and they teaching their kids to despise Him. But show mercy on them that love me and keep my commandments. Mercy is applied when judgment is already made, and that means you was weighed in the balance. You still owe. So now, instead of I'm gonna show you some mercy, I'm gonna show you a little. I'm gonna say, okay, you really owe me $100, but I know you've been struggling, and I know things have been kind of rough and tight, and just give me 50. That's mercy. But the judgment and the commitment was for the $50. $100, and you settle for less. That's the way mercy works sometimes. The Creator can work even more dynamic. But those are the important points that I like to bring out. So we're gonna skip down. We know you're supposed to talk about the service and everything like that there. All right, we're gonna skip down to the 29th chapter. 29th verse.
Verse 29, it reads, And it came to pass at midnight that Yehudah smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne, unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of the cattle. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead.
All right, there. We'll stop right there just for a moment. One of the strangest things is that, can you imagine that we had 600,000 men of war when we left out of Egypt? 600,000, I think 350 something men of war, 20 years old and not able to go to war. Now, you're talking roughly about 3 million people that was at the foot of Mount Sinai. Roughly about 3 million people. Talking about those that can't go, those that was too young, those that was too old, that they couldn't go to war, and the spouses. So, we was multiplying. So if the Egyptians had that many people in their land, can you imagine? We just say only 3 million people of Egyptians. There's 3 million people. Let's say the firstborns. I even go this way. Matter of fact, I bring it this way. That when we calculated the firstborn in the wilderness, it was 22,273 firstborn. That's how many firstborn of Israelites it was. We're not counting the Levites. So now, and you're talking about 2,200 Levites. 22,000 Levites, excuse me, 22,000 Levites. So yeah, 22,273 firstborn regular Israelites from other tribes, and 22,000 Levites. So imagine now 3 times that many people dying at one time. Now we just talking about males now. Now throw the females and add another, maybe 100,000. That's a lot of people dead at one time, at one night, at the same time. So That is remarkable plague. And you talk about a plague, talk about a striking the firstborn, and then it just stopped with human beings. Animals lost animals. That means even the animals, the herds, that they died that night. Firstborn, a man and beast. That's a devastating strike. And then you see these people over here, nobody's touched. And the rest of the people that try to subjugate them. And I would tell people to go over this again. I know you're gonna go over it again, but there's a lot more insights. I'm gonna stop here for the day. But there's a lot more insights. But one of the things that Pharaoh called for Moses and everything to leave, and was thrust out of Egypt. One of the things I like to bring out is a lot of other interesting things in this particular chapter about the feeling for those that rap to feeling. They choose certain things from the 13th chapter of Exodus. When it's abiding upon a sign upon the hand, if you front between the eyes, you find that in talking about the Passover story in the book of Exodus, the 13th chapter. But more so than that, I like to just focus on that no nation could say a God came and forth from or try to rescue or talk about a liberation. Now, and when I like to leave you with this kind of thought here, is that though the Egyptians enslaved us, though the Egyptians had tried to have a national policy to eliminate all men children at one time, and even some of the Israelites complied to that edict. We are told later on, thou shalt not hate an Egyptian because you was a stranger in his land. He said, what? You talking about being a stranger there? What about that slavery? What about all this devastation of death? They suffered a greater death than we did. So therefore, it says you was a stranger. And that's what the Creator wants us to remember. Not so much against the Egyptians, holding a grudge against the Egyptians because of the slavery. Not so much holding a grudge because of what they killed us, but remember not to hold a grudge because you was a stranger in his land. You was in his house and got rescued out of his house, but you was in his house. So, and when Pharaoh called for the Moshe, they said, take your people and be gone, and bless me also. We could look at it from two different perspectives because we was thrust out of the land of Egypt. We used to say things like, the Creator told Moses, tell Pharaoh, let my people go. Today we might have to say, my people, please let Pharaoh go. And one of the things is that when we say Pharaoh said, bless me also, we can look at it from this perspective. You leaving is a blessing for me right now. Not so much that I'm looking for you to, say a prayer for me. My prayer is that you be gone. My prayer is that you get up out of here, because we was actually thrust out of Egypt. So with that, I hope you got something out of what I said. And I know I jumped around a little bit in the story, and any mistakes of my own, and I hope I shared some insights and clarity as we go into the Sidra this week would be Bishlach, which is sent out, and that's thrust out, get put out. A place that we really, get put out is a rough thing. Get put out. I know, been there, that day. I know how it feels to get put out of a place. You know what I mean? So when you get put out, it's not a good feeling. Even if you got your stuff, it's not a good feeling. Because anytime, even if you go to move, you say, now I got to set the furniture. It might take about 2 months before you settle in, or 3 months before you settle in. You might even be there for 6 months and still see boxes over there and say, oh man, I forgot to put this stuff up. I'll get to it eventually. So with that, and I appreciate the time, and like I said, once again, any mistakes been my own. I hope everybody got something out of it, and y'all have a good Shabbat coming up.
Hallelujah. Torah Nasik. May the Most High God bless you.
All right, and all
Shalom, shalom.